Hello guys and welcome back to Champions League predictions. We are now into game week 7 of the new Champions League phase and there is so much to play for. 3 teams have already been eliminated and we've got some teams already on the brink of qualification straight through into the round of 16. We've still got a lot to play for guys, so it is a big week of predictions. Be sure to share your predictions down in the comments, and if you want to support the video and this channel, drop a like. Let's go for 1,900. It only takes 2 seconds to hit the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our football content over here. And without any further ado, let's dive straight into the predictions. We've got some big games to predict this week. First up then, we've got Atalanta versus Sturm Graz. So Atalanta are currently 13th, Sturm Graz are 29th, and like I say, big games all around because Sturm Graz have to win to stay in the competition. If Sturm Graz don't win, they are eliminated. So they've got to come here and get the win, but I don't know if they're going to do it. Atalanta have simply been better than them so far in the Champions League. They are the better team and they've only conceded 4 goals in the competition so far. On top of that, they have got goal scorers that have proven themselves in the competition so far. Ademola Lookman has scored 3. He'll be looking for his 4th or his 5th maybe in this game. And I'm going to back Atalanta. It's a winnable game. It should be a good result to move them towards that top 8. And I'm going to go 2-0 to Atalanta as my first prediction here, which would mean that Sturm Graz are eliminated. Do share your thoughts on that one. The first game there, Atalanta versus Sturm Graz. Next up then, and we have Monaco versus Aston Villa. A really interesting one this. Monaco 16th in the table, Aston Villa 5th in the table. Villa have been absolutely fantastic on their return to the Champions League and they're now standing in good stead to get into a position where they can get through as one of the top 8 from the Champions League phase. Their next game after this is Celtic at home as well, which is an interesting one, a battle of Britain. As for this one, Monaco have lost their last 2 games. They lost 3-2 at home to Benfica, and then they did go away to Arsenal and lose 3-0. They did have some good results before that, but the last 2 not great. And as for Aston Villa, like I say, they are nearly through. They've only conceded 3 goals in the competition so far, so I think they're going to do well defensively here. Do I think they're going to keep a clean sheet? I think it's going to be tricky. It'll be a great away day for the Villa fans, and I think they might just get the win. I'm torn here between a low-scoring draw or Villa just pinch it. And I'm going to go Monaco 1, Aston Villa 2 as my prediction. I think Villa have been fantastic. Like I say, they're still going pretty well in the Premier League. There is a chance that they could finish top 6 or even top 4 again and get quite far in the Champions League. Right now, I do think Aston Villa should be getting to the quarterfinals, maybe even the semi-finals, but the competition certainly will get stronger as we move into the knockout stages. But as for my prediction, I'm going to go Monaco 1, Villa 2. Do share your thoughts on that one. The next game then is Atletico Madrid versus Bayer Leverkusen. A great matchup, 2 big teams from the Champions League this season. They've both performed quite well. Atletico Madrid are in 11th place. Bayer Leverkusen are in 4th place. They're in a very good position to qualify here. Florian Wirtz has scored 5 goals in the competition so far. But that said, Atletico Madrid have players like Griezmann who scored 4 goals and Alvarez has scored 4 goals in the Champions League. So both teams tend to score quite a bit. I think Bayer Leverkusen have performed better so far this season, but Atletico Madrid do have the home advantage, so I'm going to go for a draw in this one. Going to go Atletico Madrid 1, Bayer Leverkusen 1, which wouldn't be a bad draw for either team, but if either of them can win this game, it would be a massive result as we move into the final week next week. Share your thoughts on that one down in the comments. The next game then is Benfica versus Barcelona. 2 teams that have been pretty good in the competition so far. Benfica sit in 15th place. They've still got a chance of finishing in that top 8, but they might need to get a result against Barcelona to do that. And that's a pretty difficult feat considering that Barcelona are 2nd in the table. They are on the verge of qualifying straight through into the knockout stages without having to go into the playoffs. And Barcelona have scored so many goals. Lewandowski has scored 7 goals in the Champions League this season. Benfica have Aktoglu who scored 3 goals. I reckon they might score, but Barcelona for me are going to be far too powerful. I just think they're too good. And I think Barcelona have got to be one of the favourites to go on and win this competition. I'm going to go Benfica 1, Barcelona 3 as my prediction. Do be sure to share your predictions down below for that one and let me know, do you think Barcelona will win the Champions League this year? I think they've got a very strong chance. The next game is Bologna versus Borussia Dortmund. Bologna currently 33rd, and they are in a position where if they don't win this game, they are eliminated. They have to win their final 2 games just to have a chance of finishing in the playoffs. Bologna have only scored 1 goal in the competition as well, so I'm not sure if they're going to get the result that they need against this high-flying Borussia Dortmund, who are in 9th place. They've scored 18 goals in the Champions League so far, and like I say, they're in a strong position to finish in that top 8. So for my prediction, I'm sorry Bologna, but I think you're going out. I'm going to say Bologna 0, Borussia Dortmund 2. As my prediction. I'm going to back the away team. I won't go too crazy. Bologna defensively haven't been great, but it's going forwards that's been their weakness. So I do think Dortmund will keep a clean sheet. Share your thoughts on that one down in the comments. The next game then is between Club Brugge and Juventus, 2 teams that are currently in the playoff places. So if this was to be how it is at the end of the 8 games, they'd both be going into the playoffs. Club Brugge have been okay, not been a lot of goals in their games. They've only scored 6 and they've conceded 8, so there's not a lot going in either direction. As for Juventus, they've only conceded 5, but going forwards they have scored a few. Vlahovic has scored 4 goals for them. I think Juventus will win this. I'm going to go low scoring, and I'm going to go Club Brugge 0, Juventus 1, which would put Juventus into a strong position once again of finishing in that top 8 as we move into the final game of the league phase. The next game is at Anfield as Liverpool host Lille, and Liverpool are still in a position to do the quadruple this season, still top of the Premier League, still in the FA Cup, still in the Carabao Cup, even though they did lose the first leg at Tottenham, but I still think they've got a good chance of winning that. And in the Champions League, they're 6 points clear of 9th place, so they've pretty much qualified in that top 8 already. So I don't know if Liverpool will go very strong. I still think they'll take it seriously and be professional about their work, but it's not like they have to win 4 or 5-0. They could go fairly steady and still win this game. For Lille, they've done all right. They're in 8th place. Jonathan David has scored 6 goals in the Champions League so far this season, which is pretty good, but Liverpool have scored loads of goals. They've got a really tight defence, and they've won 6 out of 6. I'm going to say that they'll now win 7 out of 7. Liverpool 2, Lille 0. is my prediction, and right now I'm going to say Liverpool are my favourites to win the Champions League. They're flying in the Premier League and in the Champions League this season. What an incredible season it would be if Arne Slot can do a Premier League and Champions League double. Let me know your thoughts if you're a Liverpool fan. I'm backing you to beat Lille 2-0. The next game then is Red Star Belgrade versus PSV. Red Star Belgrade are 31st, so if they don't win, they are out of the Champions League. As for PSV, they are 23rd in the Champions League table, and they're of course top of the Eredivisie division. They're always flying in that. This is an interesting one. Red Star Belgrade have conceded 19 goals in the Champions League this season. That is really, really poor. And as for PSV, they've not won away from home in the Champions League phase yet, but I think that might change in this one. I think Red Star Belgrade are going to be eliminated. I'm going to say Red Star Belgrade 1, PSV 2, which would put PSV in a strong chance of securing that playoff place, and maybe it's still possible they could finish in the top 8, but I think a lot would have to go their way. I think PSV are probably going to finish in the playoffs, and I'm backing them to win this game 2-1. Do share your thoughts in the comments. The next game then is between Slovan Bratislava and Stuttgart, and Slovan Bratislava are already out. They are eliminated after losing all 6 of their games. They're 35th in the table, and they've conceded 21 goals. As for Stuttgart, they're currently 26th. They've not done great in the Champions League so far, but they have had some difficult fixtures, and they did actually win their last game 5-1 against Young Boys, and they've got Demirovic. He tends to score goals. So for this one, knowing that Slovan Bratislava are already eliminated and Stuttgart have got a lot to play for, I'm going to go heavy on the away team here. Slovan Bratislava 0, Stuttgart 3 is my prediction. I'm going to go quite heavy with Stuttgart here. I think they're going to get the win, and it'll move them closer to confirming a place in the playoffs. Do share your thoughts in the comments. The next game then is RB Leipzig versus Sporting Club Portugal. RB Leipzig are another team that have already been eliminated after losing all 6 of their games. They have had some hard games, but look, they've not picked up any results, so there you go. They've got Sesko, who's always a threat. He might score. But as for Sporting, they've still got a lot to play for. They're 17th in the Champions League table. Of course, they've got Victor Gyökeres. But if you look at their results in the Champions League, they won, they drew, they won, they won. Then Amurim left, and then they've lost their last 2 games in the Champions League. So it's certainly taken its toll on them, losing the manager. But knowing that Leipzig are already eliminated, I think Sporting might just get the win here, which would put them in a good position of getting through. So I'm going to go Leipzig 1, Sporting 2. And once again, I wouldn't be surprised if Victor Gyökeres is scoring the goals. I think Sporting have done pretty well in the Champions League, and I'd love to see them get quite far in the competition this season. The next game is between Shakhtar Donetsk and Brest. Shakhtar Donetsk are 27th, and if they lose this, they are eliminated. If they draw, they might still have a chance. So they've got to make sure they get something to still have a chance of making the playoffs going into that final game. As for Brest, they've been brilliant. They're 7th in the Champions League, although they are mid-table in Ligue 1, the French division, because they've been a bit inconsistent in that. But Abdullah Sima has scored 3 goals in the Champions League, and like I say, they've been hard to beat. They've picked up some really good results. I think Brest are the favourites, but I will give Shakhtar Donetsk something, because sometimes you get surprise results, and this would give Shakhtar Donetsk a chance of still qualifying in the final game. So I'm going to go for a draw. Shakhtar Donetsk 2, Brest 2 as my prediction. As I say, Brest are the favourites, but Shakhtar Donetsk have a lot to play for. They've got to make sure they get something or they are eliminated. The next game then is at the San Siro as AC Milan host Girona. AC Milan are in 12th place. They're in a good position here of getting into that top 8. Of course, they've got Pulisic, who scored 3 goals. They've got Reinders, who scored 3 goals in the Champions League. And they host Girona, who, if they don't win, they are eliminated. Girona haven't picked up many points, and they've only scored 4 goals as well. So, sorry to be boring, but I am going to go for the favourites again. I'm going to go AC Milan 2, Girona 0, which would mean that AC Milan move closer to the top 8 and Girona would be eliminated. Do share your thoughts on that one. It's a big game. Both have a lot to play for. Next up, we go to the Emirates as Arsenal host Dynamo Zagreb. Arsenal are currently 3rd. They're in a good position here of qualifying straight away into the knockout stages through that top 8. Obviously, we've spoken about with Arsenal that they are still in the title race in the Premier League, but they've got a lot of catching up to do. They've gone out of the FA Cup to Manchester United, and they are on the verge of going out of the Carabao Cup to Newcastle United. So they've really got to go for the Champions League and see how far they can get. Remember, Arsenal, they're a big club, but they've never won the Champions League. I think they're going to win this game. Dynamo Zagreb are 24th. I know they've got Kalenovic, and he scored 4 goals this season in the Champions League, but Arsenal are strong favourites. They've only conceded 2 goals in the Champions League so far, and knowing that they're nearly through, I think they're going to go pretty strong and they're going to get the win. I'm going to go 3-0 to Arsenal. Yeah, I'm going 3-0. I'm going pretty comfy. Like I say, I fancy Arsenal to get straight through into the knockout stages. Let me know your thoughts, Arsenal fans. I fancy you to go quite far this year. The next game then is at Celtic Park as Celtic host Young Boys. Celtic have been pretty good so far in the Champions League. They currently sit 21st. Of course, they're flying in the Scottish Premiership. They're quite far clear of Rangers and Aberdeen. Obviously, they've got Kyogo, they've got Maeda, they've got Ida. They've all scored a few goals in the Champions League this season. And as for Young Boys, they are already eliminated. They are bottom of the league after losing all 6 games, and they've conceded 22 goals. So, knowing that Celtic are pretty strong at home, I think this is going to be a very, very comfortable Celtic win. I might go 4-0. I'm going to go really heavy here for Celtic. I'm going to say Celtic 4, Young Boys 0. Knowing that Young Boys are already eliminated certainly helps Celtic, and like I say, they've still got a lot to play for. It's still possible that Celtic could finish in that top 8, but still finishing in the playoffs wouldn't be too bad. They've got to go away to Aston Villa in the final game, and I'm looking forward to that one. Let me know your thoughts, Celtic fans. The next game then is between Feyenoord and Bayern Munich. Feyenoord are 18th in the league table. Bayern Munich are 10th. They've scored 17 goals in the Champions League, and Harry Kane has scored 5 of them. As for Feyenoord, they've scored 14, and Milambo has scored 3. So I think there's going to be goals in this game, but I'm just going to edge the favourites. Knowing that Bayern Munich are just outside that top 8, they've got to get the win to get them in there going into that final game. I'm going to go Feyenoord 1, Bayern Munich 2, and once again, I wouldn't be surprised if Harry Kane is getting a goal or two. Do share your thoughts on that one. Feels like a really interesting game. Feyenoord definitely shouldn't be underestimated though, to be fair. The next game is a classic. It's PSG versus Manchester City, and what's interesting about this is they are two of the top clubs in Europe, expected to do well, but they've really underperformed this season. PSG are 25th in the league and Manchester City are 22nd, so as things stand, they're not going to be finishing in the top 8. They've both got to try and win their final 2 games to get in there, but even then, that might not be enough. I think there's a very good chance they could both finish in the playoffs. Plus, if either of them are to lose their final 2 games, one of them might not even finish in the playoffs. As for a prediction, PSG haven't had many goals going in. They've scored 6, they've conceded 6 in the Champions League. As for Man City, they have scored 13 and Haaland has scored 5 of them in the Champions League. Man City have got to try and win the Champions League. I know it's easier said than done, but knowing that they're probably not going to win the Premier League this season, they've really got to go for the Champions League. And I think they might just win this game. I'm going to go PSG 1, Man City 2 in this massive, massive game between the two biggest underperformers. Do share your thoughts down in the comments, guys. Huge game, and it's a real disaster for either team to lose. The next game then, and we go to the Bernabeu as Real Madrid host RB Salzburg. Real Madrid are 20th. They are definitely underperforming as well. Salzburg are 32nd and they are out if they do not win. Well, I don't know if Salzburg are going to win. I think Real Madrid, even though they've underperformed so far, I think they're going to get back on track with a heavy win here. You know, they've got the quality of Bellingham, Modric, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., and Vinicius Jr. has scored 5 goals in the Champions League this season. You know, when the pressure's on, Real Madrid tend to deliver in this competition. So I'm going to go for a heavy win and for them to go shooting up the table. Real Madrid 4, RB Salzburg 0 is my prediction. I know Real Madrid have not been perfect in the Champions League so far, but when it matters, things just click for Real Madrid. They're the most successful team in this competition for a reason, and I think they're going to win 4-0. And then we move on to the final game, which is Sparta Prague versus Inter Milan. Sparta Prague are 28th. They are on the verge of elimination as well. Inter Milan are 6th and they've only conceded 1 goal in 6 games so far, which is incredible. On top of that, Inter Milan have had 6 different goal scorers in the Champions League for them so far this season. For Sparta Prague, they've lost their last 4 Champions League games and conceded 18 goals. So I think Inter Milan should win, and I think they're going to keep another clean sheet. My prediction here is Sparta Prague 0, Inter Milan 2. That would be a damaging result for Sparta Prague, but it would mean that Inter Milan move even closer to finishing in that top 8. And there you go. That wraps up the Champions League predictions, guys. Do be sure to share your predictions down in the comments. Like I say, there's plenty of games, so get your predictions down there. Be sure to support this video by dropping a like and feel free to subscribe as well. It only takes 2 seconds and it is massively appreciated. We're closing in on 90,000 subscribers, so do get involved. Let me know as well in the comments who you think will win the Champions League this season. It's going to be interesting. I'll see you next week for Champions League Week 8 predictions. Take care. Peace out.